Hey, welcome along. So we're sort of like third of the way through 2020, and I thought it would be quite cool to reflect on. I'll ramble off about sort of my top five, the top five that I'm looking forward to the most anyway. Number one has to be Humankind. I'm a massive fan of Civilization and the whole Civilization franchise, and Humankind looks like it's kind of going to take the Civ methodology, the Civ template, and really update it for 2020. The thing that I like about it the most, from what we've seen and heard, is that essentially it's going to play very similarly to Civilization 5 and Civilization 6, but when you're playing as your empire, you can sort of take cues from historical empires like the Romans or the Vikings or the ancient Egyptians and what have you. Take little bits and pieces from them and shape your own civ. So there's a lot more potential for creativity in this historical turn-based strategy, which is essentially what it will be. Second one for me is Crusader Kings III. I was never massively into 1 and 2 personally, but the team that's been working on 3 has been working on it for quite a long time. Obviously, it's made by Paradox, so it will have a lot of complexity to it. It's one of the reasons why I could never really get into 1 or 2, and not because it was too hard, but just because I didn't want to commit the time. But Paradox have come out and said that they're trying to make Crusader Kings 3 a lot more accessible and sort of easier to pick up without dumbing it down and without getting rid of that really intricate economic management, people management, character development, all those things that this medieval game is really known for. Number 3 for me is probably Knights of Honor 2 Sovereign. I've not touched Knights of Honor before, but this one came up on my Steam recommendations, and it looks like it could be interesting. Mainly because they're claiming it's going to have, and I quote, robust multiplayer, quote unquote, join with multiple friends to take on the challenges of medieval Europe in this action-packed RTS combat. If they can pull that off, they'll be one of the only teams to have ever been able to do it, because most of these kind of things don't really work at that multiplayer level. Like, their netcode is just dreadful. So fingers crossed they can do it. Outside of that claim, they're also claiming it to be a quote-unquote accessible grand strategy game with all kinds of depths, from managing your religion to your diplomacy to your city development in real time. So it's something to at least look out for. The graphics look interesting, kind of Tropico vibe to it almost. Tropico, maybe Tropico 5. With elements of sort of like the Total War series laced in there as well. So I think it's definitely something to look out for. And that's why it ranks at number 3 for me. The fourth one, I'm hoping is going to be 2020, but it's hard to say because they haven't confirmed it at Age of Empires 4. Obviously, there's still a very strong, dare I say, kind of cult-like following for some of the older games, particularly AoE 2. So there'll be a lot of pressure on 4 to try and hold true to its roots and keep traditional, but also somehow modernize all of that stuff without isolating sections of the community. We don't know a lot about it yet. It was announced in 2017, so it's been on the back burner in the works for quite a long time. But it's sort of been tipped to release in late 2020. And then the last one, for me, my number 5, would have to be Old World. I didn't really even know it was a thing until I was perusing through the Epic Games website, and I found it, and I thought, what is this thing actually even all about? In essence, it's set in, you guessed it, the Old World. It's a historical epic strategy game. It's developed by the lead designer of Civ 4 and Offworld Trading Company, which is pretty cool because there's a bit of experience there. And I think its real point of difference is it's really focused on succession and order and legitimacy and these kind of traits that are really tied with kinship and with people. So you are not only focused up on building an empire, but also building up relationships in that sort of Crusader Kings model of building people. But from what I've seen, and we haven't seen a lot, but from what I've seen, the decision making and the way in which your character or your dynasty or whatever you want to call it makes a decision, those ramifications play out throughout the rest of the whole thing. So it looks like Old World could do that really well, and I'm looking forward to seeing what it can do when it comes out later this year. There were obviously a lot that I've missed. It's really hard to try and narrow it down to five. I think you could sit here for 40 or 45 minutes and ramble off 40 or 45 titles that all look really cool in the genre. We're at a time where some people would say it's oversaturated, but actually we're just really lucky, and there's so much good, high quality stuff out there in a sea of some other questionable things. Anyway, that'll wrap it up. That'll wrap it up from me. But if you have any suggestions or any real key ones that I missed, feel free to drop them below, and we can sort of have a wee dialogue and trade ideas and try and get each other excited and hyped up for what's coming. Other than that, thanks very much, and I'll catch you next time.